Dr. Love, you're live.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Love Show. I'm Gabby Love, an international matchmaker and love coach based in New York City and Los Angeles. I'm currently working on my PhD, and my dissertation is marital satisfaction and personality types. This episode I'm calling The Challenges of Men and Fems in 2016. This was inspired by my recent biggest events of the year here in New York City, and it is also in Los Angeles on May 22nd. And I called it Men and Femmes Love Workshop. I thank all of my production staff for assisting me in spreading my love throughout my workshops, and tonight, in particular, my producer, Cooge, who's based in Orlando, Florida, and the creator of the Dr. Love Show. Started at Universal Studios with Cooge's idea. So how's the weather down in Florida right now, Cooge?
What was it, 80 degrees today? How's it in D.C.?
No, I'm in New York City tonight.
I mean, how is it? Oh, I'm sorry. How is it in New York City?
Um, it's bloody cold. It's full of snow flurries, and it's difficult. 80 degrees. Did you go golfing?
Y- yes, yes, I did. That was my preparation for today's show.
I'm so jealous.
Recreation is a very important part of work.
I'm so jealous. Well, earlier in the new year, I set the intention for Love Enterprises and the Dr. Love Show to focus on teaching awesome, vivacious love to all men and femmes that choose to love in 2016. This episode deals with the key challenges of men and femmes in relationship and in love. This episode is inspired by all I learned in love through my graduate work and my empirical scientific data of my graduate work in 2015. Also, it was fueled by real statistics of men, women, marriage, dating, sex, and relationship, acquired by the hundreds, thousands of people up to date that have shared their personal love lives with me in 2015. In any given year, it's hundreds, but up to date, it's been thousands. All I know as a scientist of love is that facts, numbers, data, and statistics do not lie and should be used to improve our future and our lives currently. Hence, I value and note empirical correlations from other scientists, my clients, and everyone who crosses my path that has helped me make some tangible, reliable, and valid inferences on love matters. So let's dive into Cooge's latest episode of the Dr. Love Show that he's calling Challenges That Men and Femmes Face in 2016 and what they can do better than last year. Let's start with a quote by an unknown. People change and forget to tell each other. Ha! Let's take it one step further. Any statistician knows that constant is the only change. Change is the only constant. Quote by Ursula K. Le Guin, who is a science fiction novelist. Love doesn't just sit there like a stone. It has to be made like bread, remade all the time, made new. I thought, since when does a science fiction writer discuss bread matters? Cute, I have to look Ursula up. I've heard most of us scientists do like to invent the wheel or even make up our own language. The one force that no love relationship is immune to is change. Times change, our health may change, our career's path are not always constant, or down the same road. Our economic situations may change, our beliefs may change or transform, our attitudes are inconsistent, values often change, And as a result, our behaviors may change. Who we are may often change. They say in divorce court the number one reason for divorce is he or she changed. Well, that's not a very, that's something that we should all prepare a little bit better for, because change is the only constant. And thank goodness, who wants to be who they were just even a year ago? I certainly don't. Last year, I was a femme in love. That's when I came up with the term femmes to keep it fun versus women. And that was 2015. In 2016, I'd like to think of myself as a femme unicorn. For I have evolved, I have changed. And now my work is to teach my clients through my latest Femme Unicorn program. Interestingly enough, this episode we have my lover, Jason Wisdom, as my guest expert. So I'm sure he'll gladly let you all know if I pass his Femme Unicorn test or not. Those of you who are wondering what on earth is a Femme Unicorn, she is my new psychological construct of intention that I set forth and challenged myself to be in 2016. I stole the term from unicorn from that cool scientist who does his statistical pie chart on his blackboard, and he pretty much teaches that super emotionally intelligent femmes are next to non-existent, especially if they're beautiful. He claims that they're not really women. She must really be a dude. He calls a non-existing, super emotionally intelligent femme a unicorn, a fantasy, a figment to an interesting imagination. So as a pretty emotionally intelligent femme, I decided to steal his term and turn it into a femme's power. Hence, I spent the month of December in Los Angeles writing my new Femme Unicorn program, where I teach all femmes their power in love and the art of love. We transform to the most powerful, feminine, sexy, beautiful women out there in the jungle of love and the seas of wisdom. Just Google hot, sexy matrix, and you will see the scientist that I'm talking about with his cool board and his unicorn dissection and correlations and the data collections on love matters that he has provided for us. I'm graduating my first Femme Unicorn Femme in March of 2016. She's evolving wonderfully and naturally, and that's been really fun. All my programs are 88 days in length. We work together for 12 weeks straight. We talk weekly, and I provide you with visuals and PDFs to reprogram, reset your mind to perfection in love. They tell me perfection is not accessible to men or femme clients. But I say, well, can't I make it my goal and spend the rest of my life attempting to achieve it? To assist me in these deep love matters, Coos and I invited my favorite lover, Jason Wisdom, to be my guest expert today for the Valentine's edition of the Doctor's Love Show. How was your day, Jason?
So far, my day is going very well.
Oh, sweet. So glad. I'm so glad to have you here. And of course, we have Coos, my beloved producer and empowerment educator who's based in Orlando, Florida. So let's get into it, guys. Let's talk.
Actually, before we get into it, Kuj, I think I'm hearing a lot of feedback from your channel.
On my side, I'm Crystal here.
Okay. Um, okay, I did hear. Okay, I just heard a lot of feedback. So I wasn't sure where that was coming from. I saw green lights on your Google Hangout. So
Okay. Are
Are
you
you?
clear? Are you clear, Gabby?
I'm clear.
Okay.
it sounds much better now.
Okay.
Okay. We can all agree that trust is a keystone of any interpersonal relationship. Without it, nothing is real. How does one achieve it and maintain it? Perhaps more importantly, when one person violates a trust, it can never be fixed. Or can it? Jason?
Um, so we're starting with trust. So we're not tiptoeing in. We're diving right in, right? Um, the first thing I want to say is actually based on something. I don't believe there is any such thing as an irreconcilable difference. There's no such thing as a mortal sin when it comes to human relationships. Anything that happens is repairable, no matter no matter how severe it is. I don't believe in red. I don't believe in because something happened that is a red flag. I believe that a red flag is more when two people want different things, and it's uh, a common recognition, or one person recognizes it, then that is an indication the relationship's not supposed to move forward. But let's say that trust is broken, and the trust is built up for 5 years, and then something happens which has really broken the trust. The most common example is one partner cheats on the other. Some people mean that means the relationship is over, but not necessarily. Usually, there is a reason why one person did what they did, and working that out. If it's treated as a mortal sin, the relationship is over, and both people are starting from the beginning. But if it's just if it's treated as, I'm going to quote Landmark Education for a moment, if it's treated as a breakdown, albeit a serious breakdown, and both partners get to communicate and together get to the root, the intention to make it work has to be present on both sides. If that intention to make it work is present, and both people do the inquiry and the exploration and have the conversations to get to the bottom of why something happened, then a breakdown can lead to the biggest breakthrough that a relationship could possibly have. So once trust has been betrayed, somebody breaks their word, somebody commits a major fraud. Once trust has been betrayed, can it ever be regained again? There's a difference between either moving on or forgiving and forgetting. Uh, uh, or forgiving and not forgetting. I think that if both people are willing and able to have the serious conversation, which can sometimes, in my case, has lasted from 9 p.m. until 6:30 a.m. That's the longest serious conversation I've ever had with somebody. And I remember we were watching the sunrise, and I was thinking it's the first time I've watched the sunrise talking where alcohol was not involved. So, and actually, I felt better in that case, partially because I knew I would not have a hangover, but also because I felt like we reached a major breakthrough. We just crossed the threshold into the breakthrough territory. But if people are willing to really explore together, and explore is usually meant physical, sexual kind of thing, but if people are really willing to explore each other's psyches and explore the core motivations for why people do what they do, then a betrayal of trust can be like a keto moved into something that makes a relationship bond much stronger. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Cooj, what about you? Can trust dissolve or dissipate?
Well, I'm going to take a lighter touch, in that I believe that there is something called a trust bank. And all couples have a trust bank. In fact, all people have a trust bank. And you do things to increase the value of that trust bank. You say, I love you. That increases the trust bank. You buy them presents. You praise them. You go out of your way to do special things that they like. All of this fills the trust bank. But without question, inevitably, somebody is going to do something to break the trust. Let me give you an example. Um, One day, my wife was in the cafeteria where we worked with eating lunch with her girlfriend. My wife was on a diet, and so she was eating salad. Her girlfriend, who was not on a diet, was also eating salad. So when I walked by, I said, "Oh, what is this? A sympathy diet?" And I thought that was quite clever. And later on, I discovered that it was not that clever at all, and it really hurt her. And I said, "Really? Did I offend you?" She told me, "Yes. I embarrassed her. I humiliated her, and I did it in front of her best friend."
Oh,
So of course I apologized, but I didn't even realize. I just thought it was funny. Um, and then I thought about the fact that sometimes you can break a trust by just being sarcastic. Not through intention, but sometimes it's in our nature. It is my nature to be sarcastic. Of course, I'm an educator, and as an educator, I have learned, and every educator in the country now has learned, you cannot be sarcastic with your students. But it turns out, unless you have a very special relationship with your lover or your wife, that's not a very good idea. Um, However, fortunately, I had made sufficient deposits in the trust bank that it was easy for me to be forgiven, which I was, to apologize and to be forgiven. The problem is if you wait until you do something dumb or say something dumb, and it could be male or female, until you need to draw on the trust bank, no amount of deposits can help you. You have to make those deposits ahead of time. Um, a relationship, though we can seek a perfect relationship, I believe, but I can almost guarantee we will not have one. There's going to be accidents, often unintentional, and and it pays to maintain a positive balance in your trust bank.
well, I disagree with you on 2 points, and I started to write the second one down because I have short-term memory, and I probably will forget it by the time I get there. But the first one I did get to write, and it's I disagree with you that what happened between you that the correct strategy that you formed there when you upset your wife and hurt her feelings was for you to just watch yourself and be more careful with that. That I have a lot of male clients, as you know, and this is a consistent problem that I hear that's a challenge for men. They can't shoot the shit with us, ladies. They can't do that because of a situation like this. So what my Fem Unicorn program teaches us, Fems, is to not be that sensitive and let your man, let Coach he thought he was funny. I don't want to have to take that away from my man. You made me laugh with it. I have dry, sarcastic, Britishly dry sense of humor more than not. And I don't want to have to ever curve that down because I have too sensitive of a boyfriend. Now, I've had to curve down certain things like getting off the phone really quickly or harshly or whatever, according to some ex-boyfriends. And that's annoying in itself. And I don't want to have to curve that in. And that's why I'm with Jason now and not with him. Okay. So, there's certain things that, and I hear this so much from the men that they go through that experience with you and they think that, okay, she's entitled to that sensitivity. So let me tiptoe and make sure that I never am just myself and just say whatever comes to mind. That's a funny thing. You were calling her a rabbit eater. Would that have been better? But overall, the intention and the energy, ladies, is what we have to not look at. Is it really the end of the world when a guy cracks a joke? That's how men relate to other men. Men shoot the shit and make fun of each other regularly. And the woman that really stands out to all men is the woman that they can do that with as well. That makes you his very best friend because then you're also special with him. So I'm going to just agree with you on that, Coos, that that was the proper strategy for you to handle that situation. I would have kicked her on over to my Femme Unicorn program personally.
Well, one of the things I've found that has helped me is to consider what is offensive to another person is in the eye of the person that is offended. Because if you get into a situation of arguing what intention, I never intend to offend, especially my lover in my life. That doesn't mean I don't do it. And I think it's is one of the things that um, about make a relationship work is you have to learn your partner. The same comment, I'm sure, to 10 other women, they would have broken out laughing. Um, I just didn't know that that was something that she was sensitive to. And, I had known her at that point for a year. But you find there's no formula. There's no, um, let me give you another example. Um, I called her babe. That was one of my favorite expressions. But it also turned out that if there are other friends I called babe. Now she took babe to mean an affectionate term that I only use with her. So when I mentioned it to somebody else who happened to be a secretary of mine, one of many secretaries of mine, oh, did we have a discussion when I went home?
Mhm.
Again, it was not intentional, but it was a withdrawal from her trust bank.
Right. I've had a similar withdrawal. I've changed some of my love games in my early 30s. I used to love the term babe myself, and I initially got inspired by it from a boyfriend I had at the time. And I allowed myself to then transfer it to some of my girlfriends or casually. And then I realized later and it was too late for me to take it back. But now, in my days now, because I know that took it away from it being special for him, now I'm very careful to just call my guy babe and not everybody else. But because I went through that similar experience, it was never discussed, but absolutely. But thank you. And you did say that, when I talk about my love life being perfect, I think I talked about exactly what I mean by that. I will make the imperfections perfect somehow today. I have the tools to do that. And that's what I mean. I wholeheartedly agree with you. Nothing in life is perfect, but why should we not strive for that as our goal? And then we can actually make all of the instances like you did with your ex-wife when then you did know that food was a little bit of a sensitivity issue. You probably curbed your jokes at least on food, right? But I also would have urged her I started training myself when I was about age 25 my goal was to never let another human being possibly offend me, ever. And I've done pretty well because, there's things that people will say to me, but I don't let anything be offensive because I know that most people's intentions are good. And the ones that aren't, I don't vibrate in that level anymore. I don't attract people like that into my life that would have a bad intention on anything sensitive that they would tell me. So I do strive for that as well. So for Jason, I want to, I did write down this one I got to write a bit earlier in the week, you guys, about what I thought trust was. And I wrote down that trust is a glue to the foundation of any relationship. Without it, it will slowly or quickly crumble. Weak or cracked foundations to any relationship are dangerous to the insurance of longevity. Both people move farther and farther apart until there's no longer a solid lead. Trust is a non-negotiable to form a coagulation of heart and spirit. An amazing bond between two cannot maintain health, substance, or life without the main ingredient of trust. This lack will also lead to anxious or avoidance attachment activation. Those are scientific terms, and when I work with a couple or with individuals, some people get activated by anxious tendencies in love, some people get activated by avoidant tendencies, and all of those derive from the lack of trust, exactly what we're talking about today. Untamed anxious or avoidant attachment styles are suicide to all relationships. Trust is not negotiable. It is also very difficult to earn back when annihilated by one or more people. So I'm not talking on a light case scenario like this trust bank that Cooch has. That was very minor. I'm talking once you annihilate the trust bank, it's nearly impossible it really can injure a relationship more than anything. And it's almost, it's very difficult to ever get back. So I do want to ask Jason, since I have you, Cooj and I have you all to ourselves tonight, and Jason
Aw.
is my current favorite lover in the whole wide world. And so I'm going to utilize this time for my own selfish needs. Because sometimes it's easier for me to communicate in a modality like this about my own personal love life versus alone, which can sometimes uncomfortable topics. So I'm going to utilize the venue and get some uncomfortable topics for myself out with you tonight. This
Oh
is
wow, this might get awkward.
ah, what I like. I like it. That's why Cooj and I like it live because that's when it gets real. So let's start with some basic generalities that I told you I wanted to hear about tonight about what you think are the biggest jewels of love knowledge that you can give us fans about what men are really wanting and needing in 2016. And then I'm going to ask you the same question. I really want to know this.
Could you want to start?
Well, I'll give you a hand
I,
because
I have thoughts, but I mean, I went first last time, so if you want to go, I mean, go ahead.
okay, okay, I'll give you time to gather your thoughts. Um, the most important thing, I think, other than, of course, love itself, is conflict resolution. And, I think it's a conversation um, that couples should have before they have conflict. In the sense that if you don't have that conversation beforehand, it is likely that you will get into a arena in which you say or do things that cannot be taken back. So it is in your interest to establish, let's call them rules of engagement. Um, I know there are some lovers that love to fight and love to have makeup sex. And if that's your modality, great. But there's some people that once you say certain things to them, you can't come back a couple of hours later and say, okay, let's make love. Because they're still upset about something you said. Some couples can use vulgar language, and it doesn't mean anything. It just means that they were passionate and energized at the moment. And some people, once you've said certain things to them, you just absolutely can't take them back. That stays in their heads. So I would say that one of the challenges is finding out is having a conversation about what are those lines. Now, I'll take it to another level, and that is you want to resolve a conflict, and there's only certain ways to resolve it. One way is there's about four ways. You can play win lose. That means one of you wins, one of you loses. Not a very good strategy in a love relationship because nobody ever forgets. And then somebody's got to cook dinner and somebody's got to seduce the other at some point. And people that lose aren't in the mood. You can play lose lose. That's like mass suicide. Well, okay, I had a worse day than you had. Very bad. You can play lose win. Okay, you're always right. You win. Um, I had a person I was counseling once, and he said, "Well, she said I was right." Yeah, that's what she said, but that's not what she meant. Um, so the real trick is, can you get to the win-win scenario? Now, some people think the only win-win scenario is to compromise. Actually, a compromise is the lowest level of a win-win. There's a higher level, and that is problem solving. There is, a lot of times I ask groups that I'm training, what is the chances that there is a third option that allows you both to win? And some people will say, well, that happens 10% of the time. And I tell them, you're right. And some people say 100% of the time. And I tell them, you're right. If you believe that it's possible to have a win win scenario, and that's a very good strategy to have if you're in love with someone, you can find a third alternative or you can solve the problem. That is what I would say is the most important advice I would give a couple in this year.
Well, I like that. You know what I've always said for the last 15 years of my love life is I just skip to the makeup sex. Forget the fight. So why not just skip the middleman? Just skip to the makeup sex, man. Like, forget the middleman. Like, there's no need to fight to have wonderful, hot, delicious sex. Skip the middleman. Jump to the hot sex. So, Jason, how about you?
Well, there is kind of a thrill of getting frisky during the catharsis of a revelation. So, and the drama is exhausting, but the short term thrill is real. So, but no, my real answer. What do men want from women in 2016? Or in my case, I think any time, any year, men want women to support their ambitions. Men want women to be supportive to what they want to do. So if a man wants to be a successful entrepreneur and he's dating somebody, you'd appreciate it if she can help him build his business some way. If he's looking to grow his career, he would appreciate if she can um, support him in getting a promotion or standing out or doing excellent work, being supportive and encouraging him. I'm not saying that he wants her to do his work for him. I don't think that's healthy in any way. But I do think that if, you know, I'm mixed about the feeling behind every man, every great man, there's a great woman. I'm mixed about that. I said that last weekend, and somebody said, "Oh, some guy said, oh, I think the person who made that up is a woman." But that person also happened to get divorced because his wife was not supportive for what he wanted to be. She kept asking him questions like, "Why do you need to make so much money? Why can't you be home at 6 o'clock?" And his answers would be, "Because I have clients that are 3 hours behind, and I'm not going to end my day at 2 o'clock their time, so I can be home for dinner at a 6 o'clock time every evening." So clearly, that was somebody who was not supporting his ambitions. Um, so I think what every man wants from a woman, and some men are just not ready for a real relationship or anything that looks like even a short-term partnership. So ladies, you have to be able to intuit, use your intuition, not your emotions, to tell where a man is in terms of his readiness to connect and on what level. Because he's probably not going to tell you verbally, unless he's unusually self-aware and confident enough in his truth that he doesn't feel the need to deceive you. That's relatively rare. But the simple answer, and what I keep coming back to, what men want from a woman, besides the femininity and the joys, and even that is part of it, but support his ambitions.
Thank you. I want to ask you also, let's go back mentally to the Love Workshop that we just did in New York City. Last weekend, you mentioned so much information, and the women were wanting so much more. If you only knew the amount of positive feedback I got from the Fems, I'm hungry for more information out of you, Jason.
Uh,
It's just awesome. And so, do you mind with telling us the jewels from the workshop? Specifically, think back to Saturday and your PowerPoint presentation. Some of the jewels that you had up there, and possibly if you can remember the ones that the femmes were so hungry for. And that way you can tell me and all of the femmes that weren't there some of
right,
these tools that you had in your PowerPoint, whatever they were.
right. Uh, I had a lot of bullet points on my PowerPoint, and I had four ladies come up to me and ask me questions afterwards, which is very flattering. Thank you. Um, and I don't remember what we talked about. I was in the moment. But I think one point that I think is universal that is worth mentioning any place that I'm at is that, um, oh, of course I lost it now. Give me just a moment. I think, um, men will, without a structure, men will do anything and be the most disorganized, lazy, uh, people you could ever imagine being. And I wish I was exaggerating, and I'm really not. I mean, if a guy could play Xbox Call of Duty with his friends for 16 hours a day all winter long, he would. And this is not an exaggeration. If he could do that, of course he would want to get good at it. And when I'm talking about supporting your man, I'm not talking about helping him be a better Call of Duty player. Okay, I'm not. If you want to get him a gift card, I mean, I'm sure that'll be appreciated. But don't give him tips because that'll threaten his masculinity. Um, but I think men need structure. Men need. I'm not going to go over the overly rigid military discipline. All that is a form of discipline. I do believe that men need some kind of structure from their own that they acquire on their own. They shouldn't have to rely on their girlfriends being putting on mom face and acting all stern and strict with them. That's probably not going to make her feel like she's wants to feel in a partnership. But
Would
men
you
do
say,
need. I'm
would,
sorry.
would you say the men that need structure are like you who are in your Trump phase? Because the stallions, like I would assume they have a lot of structure in their business life.
Right.
So I'm talking in your love life that because that a woman can help structure that.
Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a very successful businessman and he's married, he's in a relationship. I mean, I could give a single answer as well, but he's in a relationship. Let's say he's in a relationship with somebody. It's very easy for a man to get overconsumed by his work and not have sex for like 3 months. That happens fairly regularly. So, one thing that can be done is scheduling intimacy dates every Thursday night, every Sunday afternoon, whatever it is. I think that is, you know, on the surface, it might take away from a little bit of the romance, but honestly, it's a very enjoyable rhythm to get into. Or if a successful guy or an aspiring to be successful guy is single, Most successful single men come up with a dating routine and approach that works well for them. Uh, they will go out on Saturday nights to this place where they have relationships with such and such a people, and their table will be ready at 8 o'clock. Usually, there is even the people who look very unstructured and very spontaneous, kind of like jazz music. There is a structure to jazz music. It's not just a whole bunch of people freewheeling off and ignoring each other. There is a definitive structure and format to jazz music, and even people who are very spontaneous, the most freedom-loving Aquarius Burning Man hippie, will have an approach that works well for him. So. Um, I think when getting into any kind of relationship, even an ongoing short-term fling, that it will last longer and be better if there are some kind of definitions for, hey, we're going to do this together, because then it trains in our subconscious mind, okay, this is what we're doing. We're doers. We're not radiant beers like women. We're doers.
I
And so
did my mind today on the train when I thought to myself, I got to tell Jason that the best nights for me to sleep over at his house are Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Friday nights, and for him to let me know at the beginning of every week if any of those work for him. Were you reading my mind when I was trying to schedule myself on your bed 3 nights a week on the train today?
no, I was not, but I guess we're on a compatible enough page that, like, I can be saying this and you can be thinking that, and we can have a conversation about it and it not feeling awkward.
Okay. Um, so so I'm just gonna keep you uncomfortable for just one more minute,
I'm not
honey.
uncomfortable.
Okay, good. Because and then Paige can take over. But one thing that stood out to me in your lecture when we spoke at the Trump Towers this past Friday night was, and it's kind of going along with this theme about, men needing a little bit of structure or whatnot. But you said that men will continue to do as they're used to doing in the early stages of dating
Yeah.
or even in marriage until another negotiation has taken place.
Yeah, we're creatures of habit. We're creatures of pattern. I think men especially. I think what I said is we will get away with whatever we can until a reason is given to us not to.
Okay, perfect. So I wanted to ask, does this mean that I would have to ask you to stop dating other women before you would naturally do so?
Probably.
That's what happens when you ask a yes or no question.
Well,
Uh,
it's all in the questions. This is what I teach my friends. You have to be willing to accept the answer, but I go for the gut because I can handle it. I wouldn't suggest all women ask as direct questions as I can handle,
I
but
would.
our power in dating is fully in the questions that we ask the men. Because most men that we're dating on a higher level of evolutionary of men and fem psyches these days aren't going to be lying. You ask the man the right questions, they're going to tell you the truth. Most women steer clear
Mhm.
of that because they don't want to hear. They're scared of the answer. I have no fear in love.
And men are very comfortable with things being in the gray because it gives them the freedom to do what they want to do.
Hard to be in the gray with me, and I know you've noticed already thus far. I asked some very
But
direct.
that actually is a really good point, because if women are, the exclusivity clause is a really good example of this. A lot of women and men sometimes do this as well. Men are more basket cases than women ever can dream to be. I'm sorry, like, people think that women are the emotionally unstable ones. No, you see You see a guy whose woman is flirting with another person, you will see just how much of a basket case he is.
Uh,
So men are far worse in that regard, in my observation. But I'm getting off on a tangent here. I think the we're trained from an early age to play the gray because at school, in work, in social circles, uh, we just basic social survival. We're taught to say what needs to be said and leave our options open. So, even when we put our hand on the Bible and say we solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, we will offer what I mean.
Jewish.
I'm not going to say that every person is political. I mean, there's differing levels of political skill among people, but politics are like political concepts are absolutely in play during social interactions and absolutely are in play during early romantic conversations. And a lot of time, one very common defense is, we've only been seeing each other for 2 or 3 weeks. It's too early to be having this conversation, which some men are just too busy with the rest of their lives. They don't have time to date multiple people. Other people will use that to delay and push off having the exclusivity conversation as long as they can for whatever reasons. So again, men will get away with whatever they possibly can until they're given a reason to no longer do so.
Okay, so stay there because as I continue my point in that is that I've always come from allowing that commitment to evolve naturally rather than ever asking any man that I've ever dated to change his behavior. I've been able to inspire them to really let me know that we're in a committed relationship. I'm
Right.
very good at that. And I've always preferred that. So I'm dying to hear your suggestion to me personally in our love life now as to how I should handle you and in our commitment together.
Well, we would need to have a conversation about it, and um, you
Not let it
know,
evolve naturally. So you would prefer a conversation.
it depends. It depends. There's a time and a place. A lot of ladies are get weirded out's a strong term, but a lot of ladies have a reaction when things to move too fast themselves. I don't know if you've ever spoken with a woman who meets a middle-aged man who wants to get married and start a family tomorrow. It's scary. So there is a natural flow. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't want to forget the thought. If a woman that has a delayed reaction, whether or not she wants to commit to you, she's just not that into you. Women, we are geared biologically. The
Right.
femmes that say, "Oh, I'm being cool, I'm being chill, I can wait," they're just not that into you, and they have somebody else that it's just a nice way of saying, "I'm not that into you."
Interesting.
Women, we are ready, and we're ready real soon in the dating part, especially if we're orgasming with you because we are releasing oxytocin, which we only release when we
Right.
breastfeed our children and when you make us orgasm.
Yeah.
We get attached biologically real quick.
Yeah. Well, I've heard women that tell me that they've been on a first date and the guy clearly indicated at a nice dinner on the first date that he wants to get married and start a family within 3 to 6 months.
If it was the right guy, she'd say, okay.
And I don't think that's healthy because you don't know what somebody's skeletons in the closet are.
Sure.
But the ladies that have shared that with me have told me that they just wanted to run away. Just like there's a guide to being. If a guy says I love you, I think we're made for each other too early, you run.
The game. He lost.
Jason,
The alpha male can't act that way.
Jason.
Women don't like anything that comes too easy. We're worse than the men.
And I think that's what I think that's what I'm pointing toward.
Mhm.
That if a man comes across as desperate or he's giving away everything he has, with no self-respect, then is that really the kind of strong partner that somebody wants to be with?
No, no, I'm not even going there because I don't work with people that are at that level of desperation for their love lives. I work with only
Right.
people like myself who, and you and Coach that
My
has our stuff going on.
my point is there is a natural flow, and sometimes the men do know sooner than the women that, hey, we're meant to be together. I've met men who have said the first time we met, we're walking down a street and I knew that she was the soulmate for me, and it took her a few weeks or a couple months to catch on board. So I think different people realize it at different times, and we all have our own biological rhythms, including emotionally. And so I don't want to say that men are this way, women are that way, because it's so much more fluid than that. I would say generally that, in any connection, whether it's ours or anybody else's, there is an organic, natural flow that is a joy to be discovered.
Let me ask the question
Sure.
that I think millions of our viewers want to know. Jason, do you want Dr. Love to be exclusive to you?
Well, I mean, that's a conversation. Honestly, that's a conversation I would want to have in private first, because there's certain things to talk about publicly and certain things to talk about privately, and I'd rather have that conversation in private. And then when we're both on in agreement about stuff, then we can share what it is that we've agreed at. But there are some things I'm actually a private person, even though I'm open enough to be able to talk about many of these things. But I think that is something that would be best handled. And
Episode,
what's up?
another episode.
Maybe we can share our findings on another episode. But yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that here.
Coach, what about you, Coach? Let's
Yeah, Coach, you want?
the challenges and what do you have, like we have just a few minutes left, really, any more challenges that you have really seen with the people that you work with or in your community, your empowerment coaching clients, um, that any jewels that you have to leave everyone with, on any challenges that you've seen for men and for women, and any resolution to leave us with.
I would say the oldest challenge in the world, and it's not as simple as it sounds, is to know yourself. And in knowing yourself, that does not mean being the person that the person you love wants you to be. It's a realization that you have to love yourself and that you weren't put on the planet, male or female, to be the fantasy of another human being. You have to be yourself. Now, if you are fortunate, you will fall in love with the person or find a person that is in love with that. In Jason's case, it is he's looking at what I heard. He's looking for a woman that not only loves him but loves his ambition and what he wants to be, and what he wants to do, as opposed to putting him in a situation where he has to choose between those things. But male or female, you have to know what it is that you want to be, where you're going, and the additional thing you need to know is how you want to receive your love. There's some people that like to receive their love verbally and with flowers. There are others that are touchy people. They want to walk down the street holding hands. There are other people that are private people They don't want to do any public displays of affection. However, they're tornadoes in the bottle. When the door is closed, they are explosive. So knowing who you are, where you're going, and how you want to receive your love, I think those are the jewels that you need to keep your eyes on.
Great. And Jason, how about you?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Any remaining jewels that you want to leave as we close the show in a minute or so to leave everyone with, men or women, and any challenges that you may have seen and any resolution that you can leave anyone with?
I could talk about all that for a very long time.
Well, you have one
So,
minute.
1 minute.
Well, you
Yes.
actually have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
All right. For today, I'm just going to recap what I said, sort of the major points, because I'd rather have people have a couple of solid takeaways. So I think, men want women to support their ambitions, who they are, their highest ideal of themselves. I think a man who's looking for, a woman for beyond just casual dating wants somebody who is going to support him and make him a better man. It can be career or business. It can be just as a person. It can be, health, whatever it looks like. A man wants a woman to support who he is. And then for the ladies, men will, we're simple creatures. I don't want to say we're like dogs and we need to be trained. Hopefully, we have received some kind of training, but we're simple creatures, and we will get away with everything we can until we have a reason put in place to not do so.
Yeah, and I'm going to explore that a little bit further with you as we write more material and we do more lectures at the Trump Towers, and also at our Love workshops and through the Dr. Love Show, which is now going to be increasing to every couple weeks due to a request.
Right.
Um, and so we will definitely, I want to explore that further with you. I want to close off by saying that all challenges that we have in our love lives, and I've even been going back into my sex therapy work when I completed those courses and that year and a half of work in grad school on marriage and family counseling. I truly understand now, and it was reinforced by the current book that I'm reading, which is called The Vortex. Let me see if I can put it. The Vortex. It's an Abraham book with the movie The Book The Secret Was. I need literature like this. It's called Where the Law of Attraction Assembles All Cooperative Relationships by Esther and Jerry Hicks and the Teachings of Abraham. I need material like this because all I read is scientific, really harsh material. And this stuff softens my soul. And it brought back my sex therapy work to me today when I was on the train reading this, that all our challenges in love can be healed when we fix our our energy with ourselves and with our universe or our God or our planet, however you call it. But when we connect and when we really resolve ourselves and resolve who we are, we can go into a relationship with minimal challenges. Other than the normal day-to-day life stuff, somebody's late, there's a death in the family, somebody lost a job, somebody broke a leg. Those are things we deal with. But the real hardcore obstacles and challenges in sex and in love all stem from when we are not connected with ourselves. So I just want to close with that.
Well, and I'd like to wish both of you guys a happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. It's the whole month of Valentine's for me. You know, it's my
Oh, thank you. That
90
is
on Valentine's. That's my new year.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kuj. That's very sweet.
And that is the Dr. Love Show.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night. Good night.